This their homecoming week.
They're not gonna have it?
Well, they're doing a shelter in place, but it's during the homecoming, which is sad.
Let's talk about that.
Really good workshop.
Tag and share. Let's get everybody in. We are ready to go live. We're already live on our Facebook account. So, hey, hey, it's been
Hey, representing for Med Week, KFR Roofing Solutions.
okay.
If you got a black business out there, minority owned, go ahead and post it on the web, post it on the chat. Post your businesses on the street, y'all. It's Minority Enterprise Development Week, Tallahassee, Leon County.
All right, so let's go ahead on the tag and share. Let's get everybody in today. We are tagging. Yeah, go ahead on the tag and share. Yes, you need to tag and share. Yeah, go ahead. Tag and share. Let's get everybody in. Everybody go.
Come on now.
We need to get everybody in. We don't. We really. We're not gonna hold it against them. The other states.
We don't even put that business out there. Email.
I still haven't gotten an email. Thank you for the text message.
Post and share.
Hey, so family, go ahead on tag and share. Let's get everybody in today. This is gonna be an exciting. Everybody, we doing everybody now.
And listen, you're gonna have some questions and some answers. It's gonna be a good one today. One time to that bad foe that's in, we see our eyeballs. Hello.
You write like you talk. You talk like you write. It's something like that for sure.
Hey, want to say good afternoon and to all of you who are tuned in today. Listen, it's a wonderful Wednesday right here in the city of Tallahassee and the surrounding areas, and certainly very excited about being here in the station. Hallelujah 95.3. I mean, joining me today, she had to stop.
I am wonderful. I am repping for my minority enterprise, KFR Roofing Solutions, and many other enterprises. It's Med Week this week, Minority Enterprise Development Week. We have a lot going on, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the key anchor events that's going to happen this week. But most importantly, if you out there listening and you own a minority business, you're a black person, and you're doing business in the capital city, you're a woman-owned enterprise, post your business and share right now. Put it on the chat. Put it on the chat right this morning. We want to celebrate this morning. I'm still
Before we dive into our conversation today, let's just do a 60-second roundup about what's going on in and around our community. Sure. Wow, I know you're not into sports, but it was an amazing game last Saturday with the Colorado Buffs and USC. I know you're not into sports, but just the fact that they fought so hard to come back, and I believe they had intentions of winning if they would have made so many arrows in the first half. But what an amazing time to be watching football, and big shots out to Prime. I know he's listening right now. And big shots out. Also, big shots out to Coach Simmons.
You was doing it, right? We have a city that winners.
I mean, I'm about to say something that's really going to shock all of them. What a great investment they made into those stadiums. What a great investment. I mean, listen to the. I want to say good afternoon to James McCray. The FAMU Stadium along Florida State, got an investment, but look what's happening in the city of Tallahassee coming up for the first time ever. The state football.
Yeah, the Florida High School. Yes,
it's coming where?
It's coming to FAMU, and it was at Doak Campbell a couple of years ago. So that is equity in practice, right? Because now we have it going from Doak all the way to. It's
and estimated 18 million flooding.
Absolutely. Oh, those I've been to them.
So I want to give a shout out to all of those who stood strong on the investment that they were making. We're going to talk about some more stuff that's coming up. Don't go nowhere. But it's a big return on the investment.
Well, it's not nowhere, but I just want to put this out there because I just want to put this out there. They need to put $1 million into Cox Stadium. Somebody got to give Cox Stadium some goddamn money.
Okay. You don't. That's it.
I'm doing that.
That's another conversation,
Okay.
and it's going to become very controversial because
What?
and a little too, but anyway, we won't do that. But also, what's happening in the city? We're wrapping about 60 seconds. We took a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's
Also,
it is such a thing.
So I want to give a big shout out to, oh my God, I was just thinking who I was giving a shout out to. Help me get this out of my mind.
No, but I will say let's give a big prayer shout out to Morgan
State
University.
Right.
Definitely not good to hear that they have a mass shooting issue during their homecoming.
Yeah.
And we know what homecoming means to Tallahassee Leon.
Absolutely.
And to have a shelter in place order during homecoming, that
Nice.
there's not much that could dampen that. So all of y'all put the prayer hands up, definitely keeping Morgan State University in our thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely. And we want to remember those who we just left from South Monroe Street, the Turning Kentucky Bar, and the mother of Demario Roman Murray, the young man who was killed last year over at the halftime liquors, as they commemorated his life and they celebrated the revealing of a billboard. And for a whole year, his mother has been totally silent without saying anything. And today was her first day. So I want to keep that family in prayer. But most so, I want to say to all of our community, especially in our African American community, it's time for us to not just want to march when we see white officers shoot a black officer. It's not time for us to march when we feel that something is going wrong at City Hall, but it's time for us to march when we see black on black crime. It's time for us to get in the streets of our neighborhood, make our voices heard, and let's turn our village back into a place of victory rather than being a vicious village, okay? Listen, I'm wrapping up 60 seconds. Let's get ready to do what we're going to do. We got 2 exciting guests in the show.
Oh, well, listen, we got some folks here today. If you're not tuned in, you're going to want to tune in because, first of all, this conversation came up quickly. The opportunity for this conversation came up quickly, but I couldn't think of a more appropriate time to send and to work today. We have none other than Dr. Y'all, last time he was here, his name was just Marcus. Now he's Dr. Marcus Nicholas, all right, who in his hat today, he wears many hats, but his hat today is as co-founder of Aspire Tallahassee, which is a huge collective impact working with cradle to career and opportunity and all the things in between, workforce development, economic parity. So really excited to have him here to really have this conversation during Med Week about how we aspire to integrate economic opportunity at every level of education, every level of opportunity, every venue in our community. Glad to have you here. And then adding to and amplifying the conversation is Ms. Holly McPhail, who I have had the absolute pleasure of working with. She is a strategist and she is for real.
For real.
She has been working with you'll probably see her work everywhere. She's worked with everything from the Whole Child Initiative to South City Foundation. Now she's a KCCI Community Catalyst. And today she's going to be sharing about their most recent project, which is Classrooms to Sidewalks.
Wow.
Sidewalks to crosswalks to classroom. I'm mixing it up, y'all. That's me. I need lunch. But she'll be sharing about their project, which I think integrates public safety with artistic expression and also has a really essential and very powerful community engagement component to it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that because both of those work hand in hand, specifically in bringing people to a conscious understanding of what's necessary at our local schools and getting to look at local schools again and saying, hey, these schools are our responsibility, and they're our responsibility to support in every way that they're needed, and the people in the schools are in need of that support as well. So we're looking forward to this conversation today. We've got a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
Lot of questions.
And I think the beautiful thing about our guests today is that they are so engaged in
Oh,
every
yeah.
facet of our community. So those of you who are listening to the broadcast and those of you who are tuned in through all of our social media platforms, listen, get ready because this conversation is about to take off. Buckle up. Let's talk about Holly. Let's talk about, before we move over, let's talk about what inspired the initiative.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me in and having this conversation and talking
Absolutely.
about safety. The KCCI, which is the Knight Creative Communities Initiative, has been around since 2007. And they're I'm going to say the quiet, maybe unsung hero behind a lot of really cool things that are happening here. If you've ever seen Discovery Place at Cascades Park, that was a KCCI initiative.
Are you kidding?
If you just celebrated the Tallahassee Film Festival,
Yep.
that was a KCCI initiative. Those giant TLH letters that I like to say talent lives here and how appropriate is that for Med Week, that was a KCCI initiative. This one, and just a little bit of background about KCCI is I'm gonna say it's a small organization. It's really led by volunteer catalysts. So all that work is being done by volunteers.
Could you say that again?
All of that work is being led by volunteers.
So volunteering is okay.
Volunteering is
GDP.
Talking about GDP, Tally, KCCI initiative. So the ideas behind them, the group comes together, they put together, I'm gonna say a ragtag bunch of community volunteers that bring different expertise to the table. My favorite thing is how many times you've been to the table and you're the only one who steps up. I'll tell you what, when you come to the KCCI table as a volunteer, everyone has the same passion. Your passion is met for passion. And it's the first time I've been involved with a community-led initiative that I don't have to do everything.
Oh, good.
It is wonderful. The team is really, really great. And what grabbed my attention about this initiative, Crosswalks to Classrooms infuses public safety, which is near and dear to my heart, with educating and just safety and promoting safety for little kids. So we've partnered with Leon County Schools, the foundation, several small businesses, and we looked at data to say where are the unsafest crosswalks in our community. Our volunteers did the fundraising, we found some artists, and then we engaged students in their art clubs at those schools to not only design what was going to be painted, but then to get down on their hands and knees on various Saturday afternoons and paint it themselves. So these students see their thumbprint on that crosswalk. And really excited to say so far, we've partnered with 5 different schools. And this weekend is our sixth school. And it'll be our 11th crosswalk.
Wow.
And collectively, when we're done, we would have served and touched and engaged over 3,000 students right here in Leon County.
And those students come with families.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that really speaks to where Marcus is with Aspire Capital Region. Is it Capital Region? Because you can't really say Tallahassee.
Well, I mean, you can say Tallahassee. It's Capital Region.
Yeah. Right. And that's a collective impact that leverages the assets, like she just described so succinctly, of partner organizations and community stakeholders to bridge gaps in the effort to scale education and workforce opportunities in the community.
Right.
Using a data-driven approach,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And I think that is really important. So Holly threw out some numbers. We're going to have this many people engaged. Those 3,000 students probably come with about 6,000 parents, right? So talk about Aspire and you all's data-driven approach. And you're working in Leon, Wakulla, and Gaston County. So tell us a bit about that as well.
Absolutely. So Aspire. So we have, over the last 6 years, we've kind of found our niche. And our niche, we live in the space of FAFSA. So FAFSA is, for all who don't know, FAFSA is the financial aid, the free federal financial aid.
That every student should fill out. Every high school
student
should fill that out, whether you're going to college or not. They
whether
should
you're
fill
going
that out.
any post-secondary. I don't care if you're going to Lively. I don't care if you're going to TCC. I don't care if you're going to FAMU or FSU or wherever, UCF. You need FAFSA. And so let me tell you about the dollars that was left on the table. Oh man, that's my friend. That's my friend. So So before Aspire got involved in the FAFSA challenge for the FCAN, Florida Local College Access Network, you know, we were leaving upwards of almost $100 million on the table. On the table.
You better say $100 million.
Come on.
Tell them about
Come on.
$100 million.
Come on.
Okay, Mark,
Come on now.
tell
Well,
them.
that's the government giving you money from school.
That's right.
And we leave it on the table. Because we didn't know. But absolutely.
I want you all 15,000 to hear just what he said. 100 million left on the table because we didn't know.
Right.
Knowledge is powerful.
Come on.
Now that you found out it was there, let's talk about it.
Come on. So what we did was we used our data because we're data informed. It's a data informed approach. And so we looked at our data and we saw what schools in Leon County left the most dollars on the table. Guess
Oh,
what?
y'all got receipts?
Come on. Come on.
They got what?
They got receipts.
Come on.
Come on. What schools? I hate
Well,
when
you know
You're
number one.
so messy.
I hate to get.
Come on. My district, District 5, high school. At that point, we had probably, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% completion of FAFSA data. Now, understand that 20%, there was more than 20% of students going to school. Okay. Gabi had probably about, of the graduating seniors, probably upwards of 60 or 70.
It's going to happen. We got these. We got.
So I'm child business.
No,
it's national level.
It's not fair. We got one announcement. You couldn't stop. Okay. So let's. Gabi.
So probably 60 or 70, maybe upwards of 80% of their students, believe it or not, was going to some sort of post-secondary institution, whether it was Lively, TCC, Florida State, or some private institution like Flagler, right? But only 20% by the time they graduated had completed FAFSA.
Wait a minute.
Come on.
Because that's in your backyard. Smith,
I mean,
Smith, Alabama Street.
yeah, I'm sitting here
Okay.
really holding my breath
Yeah.
because this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, they don't know.
They don't know. So what we did was we saw that data and we said, you know what? There's this project that was actually birthed out of Jacksonville called the Beacon Project.
Okay.
And it was led by the director at TCC created this kind of Beacon Project. And he said, let's do this pilot program at Gabi High School.
Wow.
1 year later, Gabi High School won the state award for innovation
That's right.
for the FAFSA, for having students complete the FAFSA. So we went from 20% to upwards of 80% in 1 year.
Talent lives here.
Come on.
Yeah, they didn't know.
Well, and you know what's
A little
really
bit of
difficult?
information.
What's really difficult?
Well,
So
let me
if-
ask you this.
Yeah,
Did that increase the number of kids now that
absolutely.
went on to higher education?
Absolutely. Because what happens is there's a gap. Like, so once you leave high school, right, you go off to college, and in high school, you have somebody enrolling for you. You have somebody doing everything. You can just show up, put your book bag on and your pen, your paper and your pencil, and show up and sit in the chair, right? In college, it doesn't happen like that.
That's right.
You become your own advocate. So you have to navigate that space.
Right.
If you don't understand the terminology, right? You're done.
Wow.
It's literally, and I'm not exaggerating. It's going to Spain having never spoken Spanish in your life.
Oh, that is amazing. That's a good analogy. That's a good analogy.
You're just like you're looking for familiar signs. You're looking for symbols. You're looking for something to grab hold to. And that's what it was like for these kids.
I want to stay right there, right?
Yeah.
Because it ain't about finding a translator.
Right.
You got to speak the language.
You gotta speak the language.
You have to. So you go from high school having a translator
Right.
to college actual with no language orientation.
No.
Honey, that is I lived that.
That's
I personally lived that, right? And I personally lived that. And what I did was I told my sister, don't do it this way. Don't do it the way I did it, because you'll be right here broke trying to figure out how you go buy your book when you don't have to. But then when somebody showed me the promised land, and I realized you could get Pell, you could get Parent Plus, you can get all these different things, right, that possibly are forgivable
without having to take out a loan.
without
That's
having to take out a loan in your mama no name or resort to criminal activity. You know, it's really,
All of it.
you know,
All of it.
you know what I'm saying? It's really, really important what you're saying about translation, and that's what we do here.
Every
I think that we underestimate the other power of dual enrollment, where you can start learning that language when you're in high school. Just like benefit of right here, if you're a student at Leon County Schools or you're at FAMU DRS, FSUS, it doesn't matter. You can enroll in dual enrollment starting, I think, in 11th grade, but not in.
Testing, I'm allowed.
Look at that, look at that. And talk about being able to equip yourself with that knowledge and empower your own self to learn that language before you graduate from high school. That's powerful. And the other part, that's also free.
Right.
There's-
And what she means, right, is when she say free,
School
You-
should pay for it.
you pay for state, get your AA degree
Yes,
for free.
for free. $0.
Florida Department of
After sitting here, and Holly, I hear you, Marcus, I hear you. And I'm saying to myself, after you said that, we didn't know.
Uh-huh.
Now that we found out, I'm big. Number one,
Yeah.
80% increase.
And so it goes into my question
Yeah.
for Marcus and Holly as
Yeah.
well. What role do you believe mentorship and guidance plays in helping these young people access better educational and economic opportunities? And how does Aspire and KCCI and all the things, because we got all the alphabets in Tallahassee, but 20%, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about
It's
that.
a wonderful question. So let me address the question and then I'll get to kind of Aspire's
There you
role.
go.
So, there's a difference between opportunity and access.
Gotcha.
Right? Opportunities exist all over the place, right? Godby High School, even though they only had 20%, Godby High School during a 5-year span offered 4 accelerated curricular coursework. That's work that gets you credit in college than any other school in Leon County. Pause. More. So no, Childs.
They offer.
They offered more.
We're
They
getting to the
offered
crux
more.
of this
We get into it.
conversation.
Students didn't take the offering. The
Why?
question is why, right? So when you think about how people make decisions,
Mhm.
right? There's 4 ways in which we evaluate a task, right? Utility,
Yep.
is it going to be useful to us? Cost, what is the time that we sacrifice? Attainment, how important is it in our life? Maybe our parents did it, so it became important to us, right?
Yes.
And intrinsic, it's a part of me. It's a part of who I am. It's a part of what I do. If a student doesn't know it exists, he or she cannot properly evaluate one of those 4 options to make a decision and to become and to move from opportunity to access.
Come on, teach us now.
They can't. It's virtually impossible. They can't value it based on the cost because they don't know what they have to sacrifice because they don't know it exists.
Yes, you don't know what you don't know.
It's not in them. It wasn't in me because it wasn't in my mama. Not that my mama is, it's just what my mama didn't do this. My mama barely graduated with a high school diploma. She couldn't read. So that was my story, right? It didn't hold a utility value because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So if I didn't know what I wanted to do, I don't know how to get there.
That's right.
Right? So I couldn't use any of the scientific research evaluative methods to make a proper decision because I didn't know. It wasn't accessible to me. So mentors, come back to mentors. So why are they important? Because they place in front of you the tools that you need in order to better understand why this is valuable, and then you can assign a specific value to it.
Love it.
And that will enable you to then make informed decisions. So what is Aspire doing? So we just partnered with Big Brothers Big Sisters and 100 Black Men.
Big picture.
Come on, with the Big Futures program, right? So what we did was we took a look and we saw, because Cascades Park, kids out here fighting, right?
Right.
So we looked
And shooting.
and shooting. So we looked at the schools that, and this came out of a board workshop that I asked for. I said, I need information, I need data on discipline. So I wanted to see which students were being suspended most frequently, because there's a direct association with students who are suspended before the 8th grade, before 9th grade, I'm sorry. So before they get to 9th grade, is a direct association with that and their linkage to post-secondary success. If they're suspended frequently, they are less likely to go to college and be successful. They're also, side note, less likely to do well at math and reading.
Okay, and I want you to stay there because you mentioned a lot of less like.
Right.
Okay, now you mentioned several less like.
Mhm.
I'm gonna mention one more like.
Come on.
They're more like to end up in jail.
Come on. So what we did was and I'm gonna shorten this. I'm gonna make this quick because Holly's here. She's brilliant. So what we were able to do was we were able to partner with Big Brothers Big Sisters for their Big Futures program. And so at Griffin Middle School, it's a pilot because we always start with a pilot, like we did at Gabi. So it's a data, right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull those students out. And we have people like Mutaki Akbar, who's committed to mentoring some of these students. We have, people like Lewis Dilbert, Derek McGee, who's committed to going through this curriculum to mentor these students. And we're going to track these students. That's what we're doing. And that was an Aspire. That was a Aspire, 100 Black Men, BBMC, Leon County Schools initiatives.
And as
I think this really highlights the role of our community-based organizations to play in this mentorship conversation. Because what we cannot do is say, oh, they're at school and we're going to put this on the teachers, we're going to put this on the guidance counselors, or we're going to put this on an already overcapacity system and ask them to do even more with continuing to do to give them less in terms of tools and money and all of that things and the resources. This is really where our community shows up and creates a village to be victorious. That's where we have to have those individuals step up, whether it's Big Brothers, Big Sisters, whether it's the 100 Black Men, some other really amazing mentorship programs that are happening. Omega Lamplighters is one that comes to mind. We know that Boys and Girls Clubs are doing a mentorship program out in Fort Braden, where they're even starting even younger instead of just starting at the middle school level.
Right.
And we know that that's happening, and that really shows that community-based organizations should always be a part of this conversation. And I think that that's where Aspire really highlights this collective impact approach, that when you put all the minds together and you say, this is the goal that we have, this is what we want to solve, let's all show up and work together in the same way. And it stops becoming, oh, this is my project, this is your project, this is ours.
Yeah, and I want to say this because it's been a fight of mine and I'm heavily engaged in it when it comes to mentoring. And we know at the school level, mentoring is done during the school time. That's all formerly incarcerated men who have really made a change in their lives and doing all the positive things, making big impacts, are having major trouble just getting the clearance for the mentorship programs. So I've been meeting with DJJ. I've been talking with the attorney office, the attorney general, the state attorney, about how do we get around the policy. Because there's a level 2 background that has to be clear, and they're not going to make that, but they make the best mentors. They are part of that mentor mix.
the legitimate message.
Because the message is clear. The fact that I was in court with our assistant secretary over at DJJ, Ms. Campbell, and we saw 95 young men and women in juvenile court show up before a judge without a mentor. And people like myself who can really impact those lives can't be cleared for mentoring. So mentoring matters, but we also got to make sure that we can overcome some of the hurdles that men who really can have it.
Kind of give you a promising practice.
Yes.
So sometimes all the solutions are not in our own community in terms of how do we overcome those barriers, and we can look to others. And I can tell you that there is a national pilot with the U.S. Department of Justice right now that is looking at how do we overcome those barriers.
Absolutely.
And there's a pilot project happening in St. Lucie County right now that I would be happy to share with the listeners at a future meeting, or maybe even invite them on to kind of talk to you about that, where what they're doing is exactly what you said. They pair formerly incarcerated men usually with at-risk youth, with the idea that when they don't show up for school or when they get in trouble, instead of having the mama call, their guidance counselor call, the mentor that they get the call from is, you don't want to end up like me, and they're going to listen.
Oh my God.
It's a program, it's a pilot. I mean, it's
I wanna
how many
know.
words?
You know, Christine,
I ain't saying that.
I be talking too much. It's the reason why is because I was in a major meeting maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, and I said, and I'll use you, Dr.
Yeah.
Nicholas, if you wanted your son to play golf,
Yeah.
and who would you have as a golf mentor?
Yeah, Tiger Woods,
What about basketball?
Michael Jordan.
So you would identify somebody with a level of success in that skill that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
And in this meeting of 600 people, I said, so if these kids are constantly in and out of our juvenile systems, they're constantly in court, I love for the attorney to mentor them. I think he has something to offer. But I think a greater mentor is someone who had that same climb, that same journey. But we're being hindered. And the room got quiet. And now you're telling me
Yeah.
what's happening. I gotta find how that started. That was my idea.
Well, I think that you have the bridge community will also with
Absolutely.
community practice, and so you have a data-driven approach to deal with it on the level that right.
Futures.
I don't miss nobody else's name, but
Futures also.
you have a
Thank you,
standard
Larry.
of practice here. Now, this standard of practice, because it has a data-informed component, can be ascribed to what you're talking about in terms of a bridge program that integrates, right? Integrates the concept of bringing in our very astute and well-experienced ex-offender community citizenry who are, look, these are the ones you need to activate, right? So I guess I'll say for this question, Holly, is for you and maybe for you. We have so many Night Creative Catalyst creates and brings leaders, not creates leaders, because these people are already leading,
Right.
or they are already doing something significant. They bring all these folks together from various different experiences, perspectives, understanding, and disciplines. And they do a project.
That's right.
And then what?
Well, depending upon what the project is, they figure out every single year they figure out this idea of sustainability. How do we
Okay.
keep it going? So I'm gonna give you one example, and then I'm gonna tell you about the next project because I think that your listeners are gonna be really intrigued by it. One project that they recently did is called Art of the Box. So if you've ever driven around town and you see these ugly utility boxes and they're covered now in paint and art, that was an initiative by them that they started, but then they ended up working with the city of Tallahassee to have that project adopted and then line items and funding put into the city's budget to continue and keep it going. So if your neighborhood, if your community has one of those ugly utility boxes that's not wrapped, there's actually a program that you can go to the city of Tallahassee and request that it be wrapped up, and they facilitate that whole process. So every single year, part of it is how do you keep it going? What is the sustainability plan for whatever that initiative or that project is to put in place? Now, I want to just take a moment to say about what's coming next. Now, I love Crosswalks to Classrooms. We have a toolkit for sustainability. It's up on the website, kccitallahassee.com, that if any other community wants to replicate this, I'm really looking at Principal Bolden and Principal Connor because I know that they're interested. I am sending them the toolkit and how do they do this? How do they activate and all of that? Very excited you can access that. But the next project, the city of Tallahassee has partnered with KCCI to talk about designing the Bicentennial Park.
Okay.
So the next round of Catalyst, whoever those 12 individuals may be, and they get applications. I mean, y'all thought Leadership Tallahassee was competitive. KCCI, they get tons of people putting in their applications to serve on this committee for a year. And they're going to be heavily influencing the decisions made, not only about a permanent bicentennial park right in our core and in downtown, right next to the city of Tallahassee City Hall, but they're also going to be talking about how do they activate people to come out? What does that staging look like? And I'm immediately reminded of Soul of Southside, Christy, and one of those tours that we did. And when we talked about the history of Tallahassee on the South Side, we have to make sure that this bicentennial celebration is not telling the story of one Tallahassee, but all of Tallahassee. and replicating some of the work and all of those folks that have been involved in this community as part of that process, I think will be integral. And we need those voices to submit their applications to be on this committee, to be activated in this process. Or if they can't, if they don't have the time to serve, because y'all, it's a lot. Serving as a KCC catalyst, it is a lot of work. We meet weekly. It's not like Leadership Tallahassee where you meet monthly, which is a beautiful and amazing program, and you should definitely do that too.
Shout out to class 4.
There you go.
Curriculum chair.
Next to the year. Just
Do it. Come on,
a
y'all.
little plug. Anyway, so I will say that submit, I think it's by the end of this month. It might be October 26th that those applications are due for this next class. If you care about the history of Tallahassee and you care about what the story is that we are going to be celebrating collectively for the past 200 years, then your voices need to be heard.
I love that point. I love that point.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in class 42 together.
I think that would be both the plans.
I want you to kind of like point to some of the walls and walls that you've already done. So if they're not in the areas, they can go by and take them.
I'm gonna go in chronological order, even though my favorite ones you'll hear when you hear my voice. So the very first one that we did, we also did a pilot. So that's kind of a theme that you'll see to Save Data Informed. We did a pilot at Kate Sullivan and Cobb Middle Schools, right there on Miccosukee near Hillcrest in that area. That was one of the worst areas where there were pedestrian crashes, injuries that had occurred. So last September 2022, we installed 2 crosswalks there. Then we partnered up with FSU and actually did some research to say, did it have an impact? And the answer is yes. Nearly 30% of those drivers that were not stopping before the crosswalk previously are now stopping before the crosswalk. So what they were doing before is they were stopping in the crosswalk. Well, that's not helpful. So nearly 30% change in driver behavior. And anecdotally, we also know that kids are using them more because it's more fun to cross a crosswalk that's painted as opposed to just scattering like ants and just crossing the street wherever you want to. So after that, we went to DeSoto Trail and we installed 2 up there thanks to the Leon County Schools Foundation. After that, we then did phase 1 of Sable Palm, the community partnership school over on Ridgeway. That was the first one that we did over on the south side and our kind of first our Title I school. Then we, I had the pleasure of working with FAMU DRS and a local artist. Okay, and let me just tell you about the one at FAMU DRS. Because we had to go through this whole process with the city to get colors and icons pre-approved so that we could use that. Well, FAMU said, well, we're willing to work with the university to get our colors approved and our icons approved. And it was an uphill climb, but our local artists, shout out to Franslin Wally, they made it happen. Shout out to Principal Johnson and our Superintendent Johnson, Principal West. It happened and it is beautiful. It is FAMU orange and green. You got the Rattler painted on there. You got FAMU DRS. It's absolutely beautiful. And then just last week, we completed phase 2 of Sable Palm, where we actually did 3 crosswalks and the entire intersection. So talk about a community coming together at our community partnership school. Very, very powerful. And then the last one that's coming up this weekend, actually, this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The whole community is invited. Come out, see what this is about. Is at a school that's very near and dear to my heart. I think it is to Christine's as well. Hartsfield Elementary School on Chowkeepin Nini. I'm right in the center of Tallahassee. I know that's not your, that's not quite your district. I do have to say that some of the schools are located on state roads, and that does pose a problem for volunteers to get it done.
Right.
Sometimes we need some big heavy hitters to come in, maybe a school board member, county commissioner, school district, city commissioner to kind of come in and say, hey, state of Florida, please let us do this. So I just, before you get too up and on. And we also went to the school that that is actually informed by data. So that's the other piece to consider is that not every school necessarily needs that. So what does the crash data say? And that's where we really prioritize our efforts. And also, we're volunteers and we can't do them all. Like I said, it's going to be the 11th crosswalk here in town. And once we touch this school, it'll be our 6th school that we're working with. And after this weekend, would have been 3,000 students. So hard. Oh, and then I just also W.T. Moore is coming up in the future. It was actually a partnership with AARP and Westminster Oaks.
Oh, yeah.
So we're doing 3 crosswalks on Dempsey Mayo, and FSU to not be left out right after our great partnership with FAMU. FSU is actually doing an installation as well this fall that they completely sourced on an artist for that they're paying for and all of that. So.
I mean, just amazing. I mean, and I was so, remember when I saw Crosswalk at FAMU, did not know who led the initiative. So I was thinking the school did. But today, when you don't know, you just don't know. So today, Holly, hats off to you and the team for doing what you all are doing. And one of the things, because I want you to ask another question that we talked about, but one of the things this does, and to all of our listeners, it gives the community an opportunity to become engaged, right? And when there's beautification in our community, the people mindsets are different.
Yeah, I think in that is community identity, right?
Yes.
Those kids will be able to look at something and say, "You did that," and how will that impact someone's decision to destroy or to commit an act that mars or there's an inherent and intrinsic identity benefit to engagement on this level with this, what we're doing with the crosswalks, but also what we're doing with this investment with mentorship and with guidance. This stuff is so simple in essence, right? It when the absence of the simple things create the complicated and traumatic, right? And we're a community that is healing from a lot of different traumas. We're all experiencing every single incident. We all experience it. We experience it in headlines. We experience it at all these different levels. Can you speak to how, looking forward, particularly with both of the initiatives, the talent it curates, the training it offers, the people who are on fire with the things, right? How do we more efficiently and effectively create a forward vision that creates goals and projects and organizational cohesion that furthers the educational and economic opportunities and promotes what Holly so succinctly stated and described, inclusivity in our community?
Right. It's a really, really good question. So I'm going to start with, I'll start with what I ended with last time. First of all, making sure that access is available to students and not just opportunity. And how do we push that access? How do we scale that access? And how do we make sure that individuals know how whatever the opportunity is, how it's beneficial for them, right?
Okay.
How do we get enough adults to link to, and not just mentors, right? Just adults in general, even if you don't call yourself a mentor, how do we get enough people on board in order to walk them through the systems and in order to understand how to navigate the system? I think that's most important, right?
Yeah.
Like if we don't understand, if you don't know what you don't know.
That's
right? And you'll never know what you don't know. And so that's from a grassroots level, but from a board level, because I sit on the school board, really critiquing our policies, all of our policies, to ensure that access exists even through our policies, and that people understand some of our policies, and not just school board policies, state policies. How do we scale state policies? How do we create handbooks so that people understand how to, like I remember an old Outkast CD. It was called Aquemini.
Outkast.
That's right.
And
At
the beginning of Aquemini, these CDs now, the CD jacket had a list of terms, right? Because they would utilize these terms in their music. If you're from Atlanta, you don't know glossary, right? This acted as a glossary. And so, how do we get more of those tools in the hands of the people, right? Getting information out. There used to be something called street teams,
Right.
right? Street teams used to exist. They
That's
would
right.
knock on doors. And that's how they would get the information to the people, because the people is not going to see, like
right.
social media exists, yes, but everybody ain't looking at the same thing, but
That's
everybody's answering their doors. We just seem to make it work when we're, getting elected for office. We get doors, but then we forget. But that's how people are getting the information. So that's how you scale this stuff.
I want to echo just from street teams to some of the work that we're doing at KCCI, because that's actually what we do. So just yesterday, I was canvassing the neighborhood at Indian Head Acres right around the school, because I want them to know, hey, the road's going to be closed because we're painting it, right? We need 24 hours. So we didn't want to rely on this amazing radio station or the Democrat or social media, because they might not be following the pathways and those messengers. So we go and knock doors, and I can't tell you how many times we were like, are you telling us to register to vote? Are you telling us to vote for someone? Right? Or are you a Jehovah's Witness? Those were the 3 questions that we got, right? But I was like, no, we just wanted to invite you to a party. And they're like, wait, what? Come on over. And it started conversations. And I say that for the KCCI volunteers, probably conversations between us and individuals that we would never have engaged with before, because of the schools that we're working with or the areas that we're going into. And then we get to not only talk about something amazing that's happening in the community, but we also get to open up that dialogue and get them engaged and say, we want you to be part of this.
Yes.
And I think that's
they want to
really,
be.
and they do. And I think that the students that we're working with are seeing this really interesting kind of training process. So one of the things that we really like to pride ourselves on, especially with this initiative, is that it's not just kids coming out to paint. But because we engage them in the process, we explain to them elements of design, engineering. The city of Tallahassee comes out, they get to meet those individuals. Just last week when we were at Sable Palm, we had a touch a truck that came out. So they got to walk around from animal control to the sheriff's office to TPD to the fire department. And my favorite one, the utility trucks, becoming a lineman and understanding what those linemen do. These kids, when they were waiting for their turn to paint, we also paired it up with some other activities. So they got to be exposed to different types of potential career opportunities.
What's really cool about linemen is that there are many people in Tallahassee, our babies, our kids, who never go beyond their neighborhood.
Yep.
Linemen have an opportunity to travel, especially during,
That's right.
now it's not, disasters are horrible, but there's an opportunity for them to travel, to get outside of their community. And that's an that's again, that's a add-on, right? An add-on bonus, right? Value add.
But I want to stay with you. Said Holly to come. I got several people who are commenting, and I share them with you. That hearing about what you all were doing was the first time. I think you were at Hotel Indigo talking about it, and so there are others. But this is what I want to say: over 3,000 kids were touched in the process. They had no idea about design. They had no idea about painting. They had no idea about nothing. But because of the opportunity and the experience, out of 3,000, I think an artist is being born.
I love it.
Listen.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things that I've seen in this.
Yes.
Is that when you think about the jobs of tomorrow,
Yes.
most of the time we're always funneling our children, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a this, be a that. Showing opportunity to these young people that you can also be a professional creative
Yes.
is very, very powerful. And those light bulb moments were really beautiful. And I also want to just kind of give a shout out. I'm going to give it out to Envision Credit Union because I was working with Hartsfield. They're our title sponsors for the Hartsfield one. We actually went into the classroom and brought them in, and they got to talk to the kids about financial literacy. But then they're also now being exposed to bankers. And wait a minute. Financial security, what does that mean? And then to have the credit union chatting with them about what it means to establish credit. So woven in value add, that was the word that you used, value add, woven into this, even as we're engaging our sponsors like the Southern Group and a few others that we have. We give them the opportunity to come in and talk to the kids, show up at the events and engage with them. And that then builds that community even stronger and is exposing more.
Let me ask you this one question. Christy, going to turn out.
No.
And the reason I want to ask you is because there are many people who listen. Yes. And I think what you and Marcus is doing is phenomenal, especially being vice president of Inspire. You lead it. I mean, you got so many hats.
He does.
But
so
but
many.
but I applaud the fact that you have done into education like never before.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the school board race did that when I beat you the first time. but
I'll take the L.
but that created so much for you. I think that drove you to say, I gotta know more about this community. I gotta know more about how I'm gonna serve. I think that did that.
You're right.
And then you went on another step further and pursued your doctorate. But Holly, when you look back over the 3,000 kids that you were able to be engaged in with, what is the one thing that you saw from a child that really touched you most?
I'm gonna have to reflect on the FAMU DRS experience. So we had the kids sign up for these 20-minute, 30-minute slots because we want to share the love, right? You can't just sit.
Right.
But it was a really hot day, and we had a lot of people not show up. And this one girl sat there and she didn't want to leave. And her mama was like, can I get some water? Can I come over and shoot with you? And I was like, here's a fan, sit down, it's cool. And I just went over and kind of sat with the girl, and she was sitting right next to the artist. And it was that moment between the artist that we brought in to do the project and this little girl saying, you mean you do this professionally? And for me, it was watching this little girl at FAMU GRS looking up at Franz Lane and saying that, and that she saw herself. Talk about a mentor moment. Capture that. I mean, and I'm sure that there was micro moments like that happened at every single one of the installations, but that one I remember seeing, and she didn't want to leave. And it was just powerful. And I mean, I got a little teary-eyed, not gonna lie, because I get emotional like that. But it was beautiful because I think we all, as young people, if we can just be exposed to like one caring adult, one individual who we can see ourselves in, that they've been successful, then it inspires us to reach further, to know that we can go further, to do more. And so yeah, I'll say I wish I had her name, and although if I did, I probably couldn't say it on air. But I will say that that was a beautiful moment. And I want to share one other. Sorry, out at Sable Palm, there's a young gentleman there.
Just crying.
Yeah. I've been interfacing with this one student at Sable Palm a few times because, like Marcus, I wear lots of hats. And in one of my other hats, I was having a community engagement conversation, and there was this young gentleman there, and he was talking about some of his resources and needs, and then he was very impressive. And we said, like, what school do you go to? He was like, Sable Palm, community partnership school. We were very proud of him. I saw him 2 years on at the Sable Palm installation, and to be able to see him and see where he's come in the past 2 years, and here he is, a spokesperson for the school, that was a beautiful moment as well. And so while that wasn't from the KCCI project, it was beautiful to kind of come back and see that the kids that I've engaged with in other walks of life being engaged in this one too. And it was a beautiful moment.
There's something about freedom. I still remember when I was in 5th grade, we painted the school parking lot, all the colors of the states, like we painted the entire state. And so now, 36 years later, I still go back to Ohio elementary school. Still go back to my elementary school and look at the what we did.
What we did.
So
And that's
beautiful.
Those are moments.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share this moment, and then Christy, you I went to FAMU High DRS Lucimo, and right across from there was the Barrington store. It used to be down the street, and every now and then we'll slip away from school
Slip away.
while class is going on, go to the store and get back on campus. And I remember the day we got caught.
I remember these days.
They called my dad, and he came over, and rather than taking me out of the class to put the Board of Education on me, he did it in front of the class. So
Determined.
yeah, so
I translated the whoop.
to look at the paintings, I make sure I drive to from the store.
Identity, right? I think that what's more important in this conversation is our commitment to continue to invest in our schools, because we have so many schools that that need so many things, right? And when we're talking about opportunity and we're talking about access, you know, in some areas of our community, they're not struggling to have funds to create experiential engagement opportunities for their students.
Yeah.
Whereas in communities and in schools that are Title I schools, they don't have the booster clubs. They don't have the resources available readily to fund experiential opportunities for students to be able to have those many important moments. And you, in addition to all your hats, and he wore a wave cap too, y'all. Y'all listen.
I'm missing the note of red cap. Oh, showing some part of my career.
I'll show you.
The BBMC, Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce, which is also a with the Big Futures initiative and many other initiatives, they are hosting their. This is their what?
Oh man.
What?
8, 9, 10.
They do an annual golf tournament in support of Title I schools.
Yes.
And you just stop there, right? They make you sponsor a hole-in-one contest that gets really emotional and competitive for like. I think one year we were trying to fire the golf pro because one of these schools was like, oh, we're gonna win. It gets real ratchet, right? And a little bit like on the low class side. But can you talk a little bit about the tournament? Your role is honorary chair this week. Yeah, it's
right.
Dr. Nicholas is the chair for this year's golf tournament. So please share with us.
I'm telling some chickens. He's not the golfer. He's the chairman.
Sunday on the field. Morgan. Then you get the links. You don't get to the field. So BBMC, so they raised so far a headline over $100,000 for Title I school. It's going directly into the principal's discretionary fund. So when you talk about, Christine, when you talk about, providing experiential learning opportunities based on funds raised, some of those other schools are able to raise those funds because they have strong PTOs.
Okay.
Title I schools don't have strong PTOs. Those parents are working 2 and 3 jobs just to put food on the table.
Wow.
They don't have extra income to invest back into the schools. Not that they don't want to, they have a heart for it. They just don't have the income. BBMC picked up that ball. And I'll say this, my colleague and the second Black male to ever hold office, the school board office, Daryl Jones, is the person that initially went to Sean Pittman, Antonio Jefferson, and the whole BBMC crew and said, you know what, we need to do more for our Title I schools. So this tournament existed far before he made that ask. But ever since he made that ask, when he first got elected in 2018, all of the funds, 100% of the proceeds have been going back to Title I schools. And the school board cannot be more thankful. I know principals are thankful. Mm-hmm. Now you talk about the longest drive competition. Now this thing get thick.
That's the one.
So,
is that the whole one?
Oh, yeah. So in addition to the tournament and raising money through sponsorships, there's the longest drive competition where each Title I school partners with a business. That business provides a $150 entry fee, and the school finds a golfer. And so what happens is you got Daryl Jones, and he's the MC, and he's making fun of everybody who hits the ball. And so the competition is the individual, the school who hits the ball the farthest gets an additional $3,000. So that's on top of what they already get from the tournament. Yeah. All Title I schools are sponsored right now, so we're thankful. You can always add to the pot because they can always use the money. So my schools are sponsored, but I'm still throwing some money in the kitty just so that, because I want to beat my record. I hold the record. So first year, so I've been the chair for the longest drive, or I've been the honorary chair for the longest drive. This is the first time I'm the honorary chair for the whole tournament. So I'm excited.
Very so.
But for the longest drive, I've headed that up for the last 4 years. The first year is $1,000. Second year, $1,800. Third year, $3,000. This year, I want to beat $3,000. So I need partners. I need people to invest in this longest drive competition because we got to get this money in these principals' pockets, not in their pockets, in their discretionary funds.
Right, non-discretionary. And it's important
Right.
to say non-discretionary
Right.
because Title I schools can only spend
They
money
can
on
only,
certain things.
it's all earmarked, right? And so in order to have these opportunities for students, breakfast for teachers, prizes for students when they're behaving properly, they need these dollars.
My minority-owned business, my personal business, I'm a woman-owned business.
Yes, you will.
Sign me up, I got you.
Woo!
So,
And please post your links. It's $150. It all goes 100% back to the school. I know we over our time. You better close us out.
Yeah.
Like you.
Well, listen, certainly, this has been an amazing conversation. Certainly want to thank Holly, want to thank Marcus for joining us today, and Christine being the conscious chick that she is. She's always shaking the conscience.
That's right.
Of those who are listening. Big shout out to all of our listeners on our virtual platforms, and definitely all of those who are listening by way of our airways.
Mhm.
That being said, it's coming Friday. What time is the tournament?
So the tournament starts at 9 p.m.
9.
South at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. at Southwood Golf Course.
Quick.
I mean, you can just come out and bring a donation if you don't have golf clubs and you don't have to play golf like me, Marcus. It's okay.
You can go online to www.mybmc.org. We'll post it to the chat for those that want to contribute. And just go ahead and shoot them $150. You don't have to name it. They'll just claim it. And you can put it in your debit card. So definitely support the effort. Thank you, Holly, so much for the work that's happening this weekend at Hartsfield. Me and my children
that's right.
wake up and act like they got
Come on.
right, they're painting on the side. And definitely to all of y'all that are listening, Pastor James and myself will continue to beat the horn and make sure that you all are informed because we don't want to be leaving $100 million worth of potential on the table.
That's right.
Until next week, hey, listen, y'all have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you at the golf course. We'll see you around about the city, and more so, see you in church. Amen.
Hey.
Hey, bless you all.
Bye. Oh, let me post it on the chat later on so y'all can have the information.